What's going on, Junkies? Welcome back to Culture Junkies Live. I know it's been a long couple of weeks and we've been off the air, but we are back now, and that's all that counts. Today, we got a really very special guest, Mr. David Mashumaro Wu from Panda Global. He's going to talk to us about esports and all the lovely stuff involved. They just finished Evo a couple of weeks ago, and we're going to talk about him about the culture of esports, how it's been growing. And pick his brain a little bit about kind of behind the scenes stuff that nobody really knows about. First and foremost, let me get you who's going to be on the show with me today. First, Mr. GQ, what's up, bro? And Mr. Dido Kuji is here as well. What's up, Dido? Oh, I guess they can't hear me. I don't know what's going on. Hello? Everybody out there? Can you hear me? Well, while we wait for everybody to join me, Mr. Wu, David Wu, can you hear me? What's going on? I have to restart my audio real quick. All right, how about now, guys? Can you hear me now? Everybody on the stream can hear me, but my partners in crime cannot hear me. I don't know why. We will fix this problem. Ah, that's why. That would be why. There we go. Hi there, everybody. Welcome to the show, finally. Joining us today is Mr. David Mashumaro from Panda Global Gaming. How you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. Not sure, not sure if I should be talking right now.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, no, go ahead and talk, because for whatever reason the others can't hear me.
Everyone's
And
on
breaking
mute.
in.
I think everyone's on mute.
Yeah, everyone's on mute and they can't hear me. Fallen Marvel just took his off of mute and he can hear me now.
I can hear everything that everybody is saying. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening to everybody. Wow, what a rocky start, but hey, we're here. We're gonna have fun anyway. David, thank you for being on the show with us today. We really appreciate you, man.
No problems. Thanks for having me.
Right. So, esports in general and essentially the fighting game community itself means quite a lot to all of the gentlemen on this panel, specifically myself, GQ, and the great Dadakuji. We actually all met because fighting games, because of Street Fighter, you know, kind of deepened bonds of friendship between us. So, and we also, you know, back in the infancy of fighting games, we were also thought, man, how awesome would it be if we would actually be able to fight as, like, use our skills in fighting games to be able to, like, compete against other people around the world, because that's what the arcade scene was all about. But obviously, today is a different day and age. Esports is kind of blown up. The fighting game community isn't quite as big, but tell us a little bit about the history of yourself with fighting games and how Panda Global kind of came to be.
I gotcha. For me, my personal history with fighting games, I never really played games as a young kid, but when I was in the late 90s or mid late 90s, I went to China to visit my grandparents. Didn't speak a lick of Chinese, so there was definitely a cultural and language barrier. And so that year, I think it was 96 or 97, was the first year they had an arcade built in Beijing. So it was like the first arcade in the country.
What?
And so they're like, oh, you know, you're a young kid, you would like to go to the arcade. Here you go. They dropped me off with a bunch of quarters, or not American quarters, but, you know, their version of quarters, and that was it. And so my first game I ever touched was Vampire Savior, or better known as Darkstalkers. Eventually, I started playing that, and then King of Fighters was extremely popular, so I played a lot of King of Fighters. That was kind of my introduction to video games and the ability to connect with other people through games because even though I didn't share a language and I couldn't really understand it, they couldn't understand me. We could understand through fighting, and we could understand each other's thoughts. We could become good friends over it. We can discuss different strategies, and it really opened up my mind at a young age on how to connect with other people. And so that was kind of the large influence with me. So fighting games have always been a part of my life. You know, playing Smash, playing Street Fighter, playing a lot of I guess a lot of King of Fighters. That was my main game for the longest time. But throughout high school, I competed in tennis. So middle school, high school, I competed in tennis. I took it very seriously, and that was what I was trying to pursue as a career. Um, Afterwards, I got hit by a couple injuries. I had friends who played video games. They kind of brought me into it because I was still competitive. Really tried to just take my mind off things. So I started playing Warcraft 3 when it came out. Got really good at it. To spend a lot of time grinding and spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to win because I wasn't very good. Ended up becoming one of the better players in the U.S. Went played in a couple international competitions, did decently well. I would consider myself a pro, but no one signed me. So, and back then it was such a small hobby that, you know, doesn't really matter or it doesn't really count. But those were the early days. Then I dropped it when I went to college. Right around junior year, so my third year of college, I was finished with all my credits. I was about to graduate undergrad, but that's the year I met my co-founder in Panda Global, Alan, and Alan Benet from in the dorm rooms. And so he kind of asked me if I wanted to go professional in Super Smash Brothers Brawl when that came out. And I was like, you know what, might as well give it a shot. It's not like I'm doing anything with my life anyway, right? So I spent the better part of my year in my senior year just traveling the country playing Smash, going to different tournaments, meeting a lot of new people, developing a lot of life skills I never thought I need to develop, but have become very useful. Later on, I went to go work at Merrill Lynch. I was a financial advisor in Los Angeles. Worked around in finance for quite a few years. Went back to graduate school, and then when graduate school was kind of ending or slash in the middle of it, League of Legends came out, and because I was a top level Warcraft 3 player and I played a lot of Dota, and I had modded a lot of Dota. I had like worked on the map editor. I had created a lot of the characters. I had done a lot of work in that scene. I was like, you know what, I have a pretty good understanding. I might as well give it a shot. Then over the next 2 years, it got really big, to the point where it could be considered to be a career. But right about then, I was weighing my options and it just didn't make sense. So I went back into industry. Eventually found myself in 2015, basically running into Alan again. We discussed some of the things that, like, in college we had talked about, like our different dreams, our aspirations, and the idea of esports came up because we saw how poorly it was doing. Because both of us had been playing professionally for a little bit. He's actually a medical doctor, so he finished med school and his intern time and residency. So he's like a full-fledged doctor working in a clinic, and he's my co-founder and he's my partner on it.
Wow.
On Panda Global, and we both kind of work on that. I'm a CPA. We both come from very professional backgrounds, both in industry, but also within the gaming scene. And both of us, play a lot of fighting games. So we kind of reconnected. We had a lot of friends who were still in the space competing, very unhappy with their teams, just felt mistreated, which they were. They felt unappreciated. They just felt like everything was stacked against them and they had no real future in this. And so that was kind of like what hit home for me, because I really wanted to make it work for them. Because for myself professionally, I was doing very well at the time. And so both of us just decided that this was going to become our new project, is that we're going to make a team that focuses on the players and their ability to form a career out of this, not just from playing, because like the players, they don't have that long of a career. Like traditionally, like when you're 22, 23, you're ancient, like it's time to move on. And so what do you do from the ages of 23 onwards in your life, right? If
Right.
all you've got is you dropped out of college to play professionally for 3 years and you're getting paid like not well. you got nothing building for you. So that was kind of the approach we took. So over the last 3 years, we've been developing a lot of our players, not just as from the competitive standpoint, but from also the influencer standpoint, so they can, be good at marketing. They can do different things. And now we're trying to promote them through either their play to continue being professionals or come through the organization as staff members so they can understand the business side of things and, have essentially job experience, work experience that's applicable to the real world, and being able to apply that to whether they want to move to another industry, whether they want to go to school. And so for us, like we've had, of our staff members come through, one's employed at the DoD now, one's employed over in Vegas with the casinos. Like a couple have moved on to, larger very, very large multinational companies. So we've had a really good track record of people being able to utilize this experience and kind of show their ambition and show their chops. Because there's the one thing that's interesting about working in the esports space is that you don't have a boss because there's no one with more experience than you do. Like no one can tell you what to do because no one's done it before. And so a lot of it is just getting thrown into the deep end of the pool and figuring it out. And that's, where a lot of the players were for the longest time, is they just went out there and they had to do it. And so you see a lot of kids coming in now, like 18, 19, who are getting the training with people who went through it 10 years ago, like me, or went through it 5, 10 years ago. And we can at least share some of our experience so they can stand on the shoulder of giants and not necessarily have to start from square zero. One interesting perspective I have on that is we have this new kid, Zane. He's, fresh out of college. He just graduated from Virginia Tech, I believe. He just won a super major in Smash Brothers for Shine 2018 this past weekend. That makes him the 14th person since the game came out, since Melee came out in 2001, to win a major. And there's like 5 or 6, upwards of 10 a year. So like, that's pretty records, like historic, right?
Right.
But he's still trying to figure it out, how to train, how to practice. So now he's got a coach, he's got an analyst, he's got an entire team working with him. He's watching his health, he's working out like physically, he's making sure his mental capacities are straight, and he's making sure he's practicing the game, and he's leading a very balanced lifestyle. And that's completely different to some of the older players I've worked with. So like for Street Fighter, I work with Punk, obviously, who's a new name. Infiltration, let's say, is currently on our roster. I think he's 5-time Evo champion now.
5 times.
Yeah, he's won 5 Evos.
Wow. That's
Most
crazy.
recently, Evo Japan in January.
Yeah, that man is a beast.
He's a monster.
Oh yeah.
And so like in the last 3 years, I've seen his training regimen change, specifically in this last year with us. And obviously he's had a lot of success in his comeback here with us. So, he's top of leaderboards. He won final round the very first CPT event. Won NorCal I think he won NorCal Regionals right after. Evo was the first CPT event this year, and he's gone to all of them so far. So close to 2022 that he didn't make top 8. So like he's been extremely consistent. It's been a really strong year for him. He's been really pushing, both his physical limit and his mental limit. And now that I kind of know where he's at, it's we're trying to design out like how are we going to manage him for the next 2-3 years in terms of winning these CPT, like winning Capcom Pro Tour, winning Evo. Like what are our goals? So in that perspective, 4 or 5 years ago, he didn't really have a team. He didn't have any sponsors. He just practiced with his friends. He didn't have an entire system behind him supporting him, and the infrastructure behind him for him to succeed at the level he's succeeding at. So I think that's just like one of the newest things that people don't realize is how much work goes into being a pro gamer now. Like, because esports is kind of what we call it, but majority of the day you're practicing or streaming. It's a lot. You have to travel a lot, go to competitions. You have to activate for sponsors. I would say like 30% of your work is making sure you're on social media, activating for sponsors. Because without that, like that's how the industry works right now. It's like without that, like you're not going anywhere. You're not going to be able to compete. No one's going to be able to watch you, and the entire scene's going to suffer. So we're very grateful and happy that we have such wonderful partners such as Kingston HyperX, Geico, like the insurance company Geico, Funimation, the anime dubbing company, Zippo.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, we work with Zippo now. They have new electronic hand warmers. It's a new product they released with us. Really, really, really good products. They heat up pretty much instantly. They stay warm for 6 hours. They also double up as power banks because we're at events a lot. So just plug your phone in, keep that on. Um, and we have obviously, we work with Twitch TV, which we're streaming on, and all our other partners as well. But yeah, like without their support and help, like, this isn't possible for like any of our players. So that's, yeah, I hope that gives enough perspective on who I am, the team, and kind of start the conversation on where you guys want to lead it.
One thing that I was thinking as you were talking, because I'm sure this comes in because, like you said, you started this over 10 years ago at least. One of the things that a lot of people find, I think, in starting any type of endeavor is how do you keep it, how do you keep the motivation to keep going? Because I mean, again, like you said, when you started it was kind of like there's no safety net, there's no structure of how to actually do this. You're kind of, making it up as you go along. So how did you find, I guess, ways to, stay motivated of like, hey, we're working towards doing this particular thing, but we got to keep it going because, when you first start off, it's like, okay, we're kind of in the middle of the ocean here trying to swim and find land. So how did you guys, motivation to keep it pushing, basically?
I think there's many different ways of motivating people, and that's that comes with leadership, whether it's holding each other accountable, whether that's leading by example, whether that's by creating different systems to goal orient yourself. So one of the major things you've seen a lot is gamification, which is stratifying different things, creating smaller goals, creating progress charts, letting people see their own progress. So like let's say let's say you guys you told me you guys started playing fighting games together, particularly Street Fighter. What kept you guys playing? Wasn't it the competition of saying, you beat me last time, but that's not happening. That's not happening tomorrow. Like, just wait, just you wait, right? And so there's
Oh yeah,
different ways of staying motivated. For me, I personally didn't come from very good conditions. I'm from immigrants. Parents didn't come here with much, anything at all. I think my dad told me his story of coming over to America. He got accepted to college here, came over with an empty suitcase and a suit on, and that was it. He left the country. He didn't know anybody, barely spoke the language. Got here, couldn't afford the college, so had to, ended up moving from Boston to Detroit to be a graduate student instructor at Wayne State. Started getting his education over there. My mom came over, so like, I didn't grow up well. So for me, I think I've always been hungry and always been motivated because of that. And so I think for me personally, I think my one fear in life is the fear of boredom. Like I can't stand not doing something. So I'm just a busybody and overachiever of sorts. So um, for me, it's not very hard to stay motivated, especially when there's a really big goal, right? And for me, the goal in esports is to fundamentally change the entire landscape so players like my friends can achieve their dreams of becoming professional players and, make a living out of it. Um, I think that keeps me driven. Also, now that as we've gotten bigger and we have a lot of people whose livelihoods do depend on me, and we have entire scenes that we're backing and supporting, like not just like hundreds, but like tens of thousands of people who play these games religiously, like daily. Dep- hoping that I can make it better for them so they can play more and meet up with their friends. So I think there's just a lot of responsibility on my shoulders that keeps me going. Obviously, Alan keeps me in check. He works probably 6 days a week, probably 10 to 12 hours a day, like at his clinic, being a doctor, and then in his off time, runs our social media, is our CEO, and is involved in a lot of the different processes
Wow.
within the team. So like the fact that he's doing that, like I can't really say anything. It's not like I'm not working as
Like
hard as him or
you
not at
have
the same
zero
time, but
excuse at all to slack off when
yeah,
this guy is working this hard, right?
yeah, like it's like you just throw that out there. It's like look at what he's doing. What can I say about that? Same thing goes for him. I'm in meetings probably on my busy days 11 to 12 hours a day. Then I have to spend an hour on data analytics. Then I have to spend time with the players. Then I have to do VOD reviews, and then I have to check emails. So like I'm probably
Wow.
doing I'm pulling like 16, 17 hours, and like I don't have days off. Like my day off is tomorrow morning when I'm flying from Detroit to Seattle, and that's a 5-hour flight, but it's 3-hour time difference. So I'm flying at 8, landing at 10 o'clock, back to work. So that's kind of been my schedule, and I would say it's tough on me and people who are close to me. But for me, like I wouldn't have it any other way because like I'm very enjoying what I'm doing because I feel very fulfilled because like I do something I know I made a direct impact on like at least 30 people's lives, like a direct impact in improving that and helping them like move one step closer to their dreams. So for me, it's incredibly fulfilling. So I'm willing to do it. Um, yeah, I guess does that answer your question for staying motivated? I guess like
Oh yeah, definitely. I
yeah.
mean, like I said, I mean, I think what you find with a lot of, I mean, especially nowadays, where it's like, before social media, it was kind of like, okay, look, advertising was basically like word of mouth. You might throw up a website, hope somebody sees it, that sort of thing. But social media has completely changed that game. And with the onset of like Twitch, YouTube, and because again, we're talking about even before YouTube in some of these instances. Even like with Evo started, years ago
Yeah.
before all of it. And it's just like, dude, how do these guys, keep it going? Because, when you first start something, you're like, you're ready to take on the world. And as weeks go by and it's like, dude, it's the same, like, 5 guys showing up or 10 guys showing up or whatever. Sometimes it's like, how do you stay motivated of like, dude, we can keep this going and make it bigger and bigger and bigger. So, I mean, yeah, you definitely answered that though. So
Yeah,
appreciate
I see that a lot with a lot of the tournament organizers who've like, held their tournaments for 12 plus years, 14 plus years, some instances more longer than that. And yeah, you see some of them do get, they not lack of motivation, but like they feel like they didn't make any progress. And that's the importance of being able to set goals and knowing yourself and knowing your personality and how to keep yourself motivated. Because it all comes from within and it all comes from structure. Because if you don't have that, you're like it's really hard to keep yourself motivated. Like for me, like for instance, for me, like last 2 months I've been on a diet to lose weight. So I was 220 2 months ago. I'm currently 185, and my
Congrats,
goal
dude.
is 180. And so like if I didn't create the structure around me, I would have given up long ago. Like I love chicken McNuggets from McDonald's. Like don't get me wrong, like I love that. Like I will eat them constantly. I will not stop. I'm not even kidding. Like that's just me. Right? So um, yeah. So like if I don't, make sure my meals are prepared, they're easily accessible. I have set alarms. I have my assistant message me saying, "Have you eaten yet? Are you on time?" Like stuff with this. Like I would have fallen off the wagon like day 2, but it's been a good 2 months. Really proud of what I've done so far, and it's because I planned it out. I created the structure around it, and I have the willpower and discipline to say I have an end goal I want to meet. I'm gonna get there. This is gonna help me get there. Sometimes I'm gonna see a lot of improvement, progress. Sometimes I'm gonna see none. But at the end of the day, this is the plan, and this is where I'm gonna be at if I stick with it. And it's just like believing in what you set up.
I was a quick question. I don't know if this is accurate. Could the players be the new quote unquote rock stars of, let's say, we got the rappers, we got the actors. Could they be to that momentum, so to speak?
I would say so. In certain parts of the audience, in certain parts of society, I would say YouTubers are probably to children underneath the age of 14 much more famous than anyone on TV. I would say some of the Twitch streamers, like they can't go to conventions anymore because if they do, like especially video game conventions or even anime conventions or cosplay conventions, anything to do with that subsector of the audience, because they'll just get swarmed. Like
Really?
they are definitely rock stars. Like I'll give you one anecdote because I don't want to speak too much on fighting games and how it works there, but like within League of Legends, there's plenty of managers whose job is they know their players are gonna get hit up by the groupies. Like, and they
Dang.
know, and no, seriously, they know
Wow.
that these
Wait,
17 to
wait.
20.
When you mention groupies, what do you mean by groupies? Like we're talking like like rock star groupies? Like these are girls coming on to them, or this is just like dudes that?
These
Wow.
are very, 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 I would say, attractive girls
What?
Wow.
who, you know, want the fame and fortune of being able to hook up with one of these players.
Did not know
Like,
that.
and so, like,
Wow.
yeah, it's, you know, it's a real thing. Like, I remember, actually, I think it was like 2 weeks ago in Tokyo, some some lady brought her like newborn child to get blessed by Daigo.
Get the hell out of here! Are you serious?
Please bless him
Are
in
you
the
serious?
Street Fighter.
Wow.
And so like now like yeah, and that video clip made its way around the FGC like sub forums and stuff, and now they're trying to find out who that kid is because like, you know, that's the new chosen one.
Oh my god!
So like yeah, that stuff happens. And like back to the story, I don't know, I won't name names, I won't say what. I'll keep it as generic as possible. But like yeah, there's certain managers who know that their players are gonna fall into these traps, run into these groupies and be unable to resist, and it's gonna happen. So their goal is to basically say, make sure you have a condom on, don't need you knocking anybody up and causing a scandal and causing any problems.
Wow.
And that's like their primary role as even being at the event there.
That is insane. I did not know that. That's crazy.
Yeah. So like it really depends on, you know, what area you're watching. Because like if you think about it, movie stars are famous because we all watch movies. But what if we didn't watch movies? What if we watched Twitch? What if we watched YouTube? And that was exclusively what we were doing when we were growing up for like 10 hours a day.
Mm.
You know,
Right.
think about it. This is what you're exposed to. These are your superstars. So, like, why do you think, what was it, that Logan Paul or Jake Logan or whatever fighting that one rapper? Like, they had a boxing match of of those two YouTubers. Why do you think that pulled in like 8 million people pay-per-view on YouTube?
Dang.
And that was $10 per pay-per-view. That's quite a bit of money.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
wow, yeah, that's intense.
That is the future of our entertainment. Yeah, everybody can see it.
It's not bad. It's not a bad.
No. I'm not even saying it's bad in that aspect, but you just look at it like you were saying, 14-year-olds and younger, YouTube is their thing. That's all they watch. I got people who I work with, and they always talk about their kids watching these YouTube videos, watching, you know, blah, 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 want to imitate these people and all this other stuff. That's the future of the entertainment is, like you said, is there. Twitch, Facebook, you know, YouTube, all that good stuff.
yeah, and I would say probably the most famous person in at least pop culture, it would be Ninja. Fortnite streamer. Your friends' kids probably know who he is. You know, and he's a live streamer on Twitch. Drake showed up on his stream to play with him.
I remember that.
Yeah, I heard about that.
So like, you know, like that's kind of like where it's going to. And like I feel like the bridge between pop culture, like especially music, and video games is going to get crossed very, very soon. Because I know Drake plays. I've met Snoop Dogg a couple times. He definitely plays a lot. What's his name? Beer Bongs and Bentleys. Got the rapper's name. I should know it. Post Malone.
Post Malone.
I was gonna say Lupe Fiasco at first, but
yeah, Lupe Fiasco. He plays Street Fighter. Like he's a cool dude. Like he's actually good. He's actually good at the game. Like he's not bad.
We were talking about this actually when that whole thing dropped.
He beat Daigo, didn't he?
Yeah, him and Daigo, that whole thing. I'm like, dog, ain't no way I'm gonna buy that Lupe Fiasco beat Daigo, dog. I'm not gonna buy that.
So
do you buy that?
Am I allowed to say the secret story here or not really?
I mean, say what you want to say.
Say what you want, bro. Go ahead.
I will say that
wasn't serious.
Lupe said to me he did not expect to win, and it was really odd that he did. I will also say when I talked to Daigo about it, Daigo was about to do a comeback, but he didn't realize it was a 1-7, so he miscounted the games.
So Daigo slipped up and took it easy and got caught. So almost in a way, this is almost like in wrestling when somebody gets put over. You know what I mean?
I would say Daigo was trying to be a showman, and it backfired because he did not.
Oh, he pulled an Anderson Silva on him and got knocked out.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of what happened because he was trying to make it like because I think watching the film, he was not struggling at all and he could have controlled the game whenever. He just
Right.
let it happen because he was like, all right, I'm gonna let him take this one. I'm gonna come back and it's gonna be really fun. And it's just he hit him with that show you uppercut and it's like whoops.
It's true.
But yeah, and so I don't think that there's ever gonna be a run back. So Lupe's gonna hold that over Daigo forever.
I would.
Yeah,
I
right.
would. Fallen Marvel, jump in there. I know you got a question for him.
I mean, it's been so much information so far with everything, and obviously a lot of it has been blowing me away, obviously. But I think we're talking about like video gaming influences. I know you had said that like one of your first introductions was Darkstalkers, and so as far as the fighting games that you've played, like which game like do you feel necessarily has the most like either the most balanced mechanics or your favorite like mechanic to use?
Um, it's interesting. I like the entire subset of the burst mechanic. So like that comes from anime fighters, but also like you know it probably better as X Factor from Marvel 3.
Mm-hmm.
I like the ability to choose offense, defense to create safe moves, create comebacks, or comebacks to basically hold the game in your hand until you expend that resource. So you kind of see that in Dragon Ball Fighters now with you know, with their burst factor as well. You know, you can use it defensively to knock someone away to reset the neutral if they're about to mix you to death. You can use it to save a character, regenerates health. It also generates bar. But also you can use it within your offense to finish a character off to extend your combo. So like in terms of that, like I really like that a lot. I also really appreciate wave dashing in Melee because pretty much it allows you to create movements that were otherwise not possible, and because of that, it really um, opens up your options. So I think any kind of mechanic that opens up the ability to make a choice is a good mechanic. Mechanics that disallow choice, whether on offense or defense, whether you're on the receiving end or the giving end, I think those are boring because it makes it, you know, one-dimensional. It's like you do this and that's it. Like there's no thinking behind it because if you think about all the way back into Street Fighter, the origin, and Dave Sterling wrote about this in his book, the origin of like fighting games and what it means. It's rock paper scissors at its you know, at its core. And so if you only have scissors and paper, like it's not as fun as if you had three. Um, does that kind of answer the question? I guess I keep asking that, but I feel like that's
Yeah,
the best explanation I can give.
it makes sense. And I know I remember like how you mentioned like the burst mechanic and things like how you said it's usually like in anime fighters and things like that. And I think in like if I remember correctly, I think like the Sammy games like Guilty Gear and such uh had mechanics like that. And I remember the first time getting introduced to like that type of gameplay, and it was a lot different for me because again like I'm coming from the Street Fighter Alpha 3 era, and like the level of mechanics and like sort of kind of going through some of like the King of Fighters ones. But I remember like playing Guilty Gear and it just feeling like completely different, but at the same time it just, I guess like during that time it kind of felt like a breath of fresh air because it was so different from anything else that I played in. And I guess like the next, like it's something more simple question, but like, what was like the last game that you played that like really surprised you at how like different it was, or one of those games that felt like a breath of fresh air to you,
Like a competitive game or like just a game in general?
just in general? Oh, and you could, I mean, you can differentiate it with competitive too, because
I think the last one that really got me was Ni no Kuni. That was mostly from the art style and the way they did it. It was kind of like I don't know if you know the game, but it's I believe based on Studio Ghibli's art style,
Mm-hmm. That's
and it's
correct.
kind of like yeah, it's it's kind of like a Japanese RPG, right? And it was semi-open world. It had details of it that reminded me of like Seiken Densetsu 2 and 3 from the SNES days, like Secret of Mana or Legend of Mana, I think they call it in English. And for me, like I really liked that concept, but also the storytelling and the fact that it was like one of those Spider-Man games where you press X and the movie happens and then you press a bunch of interactables, but like much more in depth. There was a combat system. There was actually quite a deep meta game if it ended up having there was no multiplayer, but if there was, it was really great. It had random co-op, so you can have two people just jump into your party and you could actually defeat a lot of the monsters easier. And it just had so much to it that as a complete package, it really blew me away. Um, Generally, like speaking, I feel like graphics wise is what kind of gets me a lot. So like that new Cyberpunk one that the
Oh, it
trailer is
looks
released
amazing.
yesterday, that's got me. Like before that, it was Detroit Becoming Human. I was like, wow, that's really interesting. Um, Actually, you know what? Uh, I have a correct answer for you. It is Hatoful Boyfriend. That is a visual novel. It's a dating sim. But it's based on you trying to go to an academy full of pigeons, and you're trying to date a bunch of different pigeons.
What?
Yeah, it's probably one of the greatest dating sims ever created.
Wait. What is one of the greatest dating sims ever created? Dating
Yeah.
pigeon. Okay,
Yeah, it's
now
called
I gotta check it out.
Hatoful Boyfriend. HATOFUL Boyfriend. Hato meaning pigeon in Japanese. It's supposed
There
to
it
be
is.
hateful or heartful, being like love or hate. So it's a
Okay.
play on words. It's a great. I think that's actually the one that I think best answers this question.
Just because it's so absolutely odd, I've got to check this thing out. Got to check it out. Dido, did you have a question for our guest, David?
I kind of have a couple of them, but I'm trying to pick the best one now. My question would basically be, now that esports, people are basically realizing that esports is legit, it's a real thing. It's out here, it's here to stay, it's making money. But do you think that the realm of esports has room to grow, or is it already at its pinnacle and that's where it is? It's not changing anymore. Not necessarily when it comes to what games are going to be at esports, because the big ticket game, I look at them like, the NFL or NBA, where those are professionals making tons of money. Do you think there's going to ever be esports at a lower level, like say how like people bowl in a bowling league?
Yeah, I believe that's already happening. They're mostly online leagues. There's now actually, I think, there's this one movie theater chain that I think it's AMC or something like that has a bunch of them like weekly, and they have city teams that just you can show up with your kid, whether you're a kid or adult, and just a rec league, show up and compete. I know in terms of growth, yes, because I believe in 2015, because this was at the same time, the NBA Finals had like 14 million people watching, and then at the same time that was airing, League of Legends World Championships had 17 million concurrent. So it was like actually outdoing it back then. It's way more now. It's like so I would say there's probably more people in the world who play video games than not. And from the esports standpoint, like it's really big. It's really big. It's astronomically big.
Oh yeah.
I would say one example I can give is that there's a lot of teams now that have NBA 2K teams, right? And those players are all on contract. They actually play for the teams. There's a video game player, for the Knicks right now, and they just won. And those players are on contract. They actually make more than the D League players and some of the practice guys.
Wow.
So you're talking about you're talking about for edification for the people out there that don't know. He's talking specifically about the NBA 2K League that just debuted. I think it was like 2 or 3 months ago. And they had a draft and everything, and all these players that basically get paid to play, and they have like a contract, a guaranteed salary. And so I'm going to use that to kind of segue to a question that I had as follow up. How does that work with Panda Global and other esports teams like that? Is like, because the NBA 2K League, they have players in houses where they do training and stuff like that. I'm not that obviously that takes a lot of money, but
Mhm.
are players do they have contracts with you? Do you just hire them for certain tournaments? How do they basically come into your stable? How does all that work?
So I will say that NBA 2K League is modeled extremely after other existing esports norms. So going to a gaming house, being on contract, those are not new things. For us, all our players come through an extensive recruiting process. They go through media training before they even debut with us. So like generally, we're signing people 2-3 months before they even show up in a jersey, and if they can't pass all our tests or like our I guess basically finish the training, that's it. Sorry, try again, like
Oh,
try again somewhere else, right? So we're very stringent because we do work with a lot of high profile sponsors who have, I would say we're more regulated than most. But then again, like we're actually less regulated than like the Overwatch League players or the League of Legends players, because they have like they have to watch what they do and say and act like all the time.
yeah, I imagine.
Um, yeah, so like it was very different before we started. Um, it was very different like about a year and a half ago actually. So like about like 9 months before Overwatch League, there were definitely people who were playing without contracts, or even playing with incomplete contracts, or like not even like anything. Like they're just repping stuff just for the hell of it, right? Um, but I think things have cleaned up quite a bit ever since you know the hundreds of millions of dollars have like funneled in, and there's a lot more professional people, a lot more VC money, a lot more I think people who are enforcing this stuff, that it's become the norm to have a contract now. Like, and now that there's examples of that, and like there's even player unions forming, there's different regulations forming, different regulatory groups forming. You're seeing a lot more uh, again infrastructure being built, because competitive gaming has been around for a long time.
Right.
Esports, the word esports has only been around for like 6-7 years maybe. And in the last 3-4 is when it actually took off, where people actually started using it. Like I think 2 years ago, the spelling of esports hadn't been even decided yet. So people weren't able to figure out if it was E-sports, capital E sports, lowercase capital S sports, um,
Right.
E sports gaming. Like there was so much like debate over it, and it didn't make sense because I guess none of them had studied English ever, because there's one proper way to use a noun. But um, like it was a very weird time. So like I would say it's getting settled. I'm sure there's still players out there without contracts, with probably contracts with a lot of illegal terms, or like things that violate human rights or whatnot in there. And again, you got to remember, these guys often play internationally or international, so different rules, different countries have different rules, different states have different rules. And the regulatory bodies, a lot of the teams just aren't up to standard yet in terms of knowing this. I can't say I know all of it, but my lawyer does, and our law team does, so they handle it. um, so I would say it's still a mess, because like the NBA didn't show up overnight, right? And
Right.
it certainly didn't show up even after it got invested in and had a lot of money coming in, a lot of fans. And so now you have an industry primarily run by, because I'm 30, turning 31 now. You're having an industry primarily run by 25-year-olds who have never worked a job or gone to college.
Oh wow.
What are you really
Fascinating.
expecting, right?
Yeah.
Right?
This
Because
is.
who else has knowledge of this industry right now? And the
No,
people
it's
who do
pretty
have
pretty
skills,
new.
do have education, do have a lot of the experience, are just coming in the last year or so, since the ecosystem can finally afford to bring them in. And so they're going to take their year, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know how long it'll take them, but they'll take their time to learn. I mean, that's kind of where it's at right now. So,
Here's a question that we had for one of our watchers over on YouTube. He's basically asking about what happened in Jacksonville recently. Is there going to be some kind of change when it comes to these the events, the security for the esport events? He's basically saying there's going to be more added extra security now, since I'm assuming he's mentioning the.
I think there'll be yeah, I think that's a really good question. My personal opinion is yes, there'll be more overall, but I also think it's a misconception to think there's no security. Because I think it depends on, you know, the venue, the funding. Because like back in the day, like music, right? Music was the same thing. You go to a rap concert back in the day, who knows who's like, you know, who knows what's bringing in. But now there's safety standards, there's regulatory standards, there's, you know, security standards. But if you go to your local bar for like open mic night, what's to stop someone from going there, right? So same kind of example here, or same kind of analogy here. For the large events, like let's say they're in the Staples Center or the Barclays Center in New York, yeah, there's security. It's the same as a Lakers game. It's the same as a Knicks game. It's the same as any other concert going on in there. But you go to your local, you know, LAN center, are they really going to have the same security as Staples Center? Like if you're going to go to a hotel where you're holding something in the hotel lobby, is that going to be any different from the security that they're going to give a wedding or something else there? I think there will be more coordination with police. There'll be more seriousness taken. I think the FGC has done a really good job to get ahead of this, actually. Evo had really stringent rules on bringing bags this year, even last year too, because they received a bomb threat 2 years ago and they dealt with it very well. They handled it very well. Final round in Atlanta, there was a gun threat. They initiated a, you don't bring a bag in unless it's clear, so you can see what's in there. And there no firearms allowed on property, because in Atlanta, I believe you're allowed to carry even indoors to somewhere else unless it's private property. So yeah, there's been a lot of steps taken. I know Summer Jam's coming up, I believe this weekend. You know, Big E's been tweeting out like that he's been coordinating with police, the local police department. They're gonna have extra patrols coming out. They're doing the clear bag thing as well, encouraging everyone to kind of leave all their stuff at the hotel rooms and just bring what's necessary. So I think in terms of that, Fighting Games has done a really, really good job getting ahead of it, because you know, for the most part, we're not in the Staples Center, we're not in the Barclays Center, we're not in, you know, Little Caesars Arena. But for the events that are, for the majors, like, you know, stuff happening at ESPN Worldwide, Wide World of Sports, like stuff there, yeah, it's super safe. It's the same as if you're going to Disneyland. So I think it matters to take into context where you're going and the level of event you're attending.
Which basically means all you guys out there is nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Oh no! One of the things I wanted to jump in on is kind of going back just a little bit, because it's something that actually came up over on. Shout out to the people over on the Street Fighter board on GameFAQs. One of the things that I know some of the guys in there, obviously, varying levels of skill, that sort of thing, but a lot of them are starting to jump on Twitch, you know, streaming their the matches that they have and that sort of thing. And you know, they have an interest in esports. One of the things that you said really brings it home, in my opinion, though, with the regard of there's a certain standard that has to be met, like you said, because again, now you're not only representing yourself, you're representing a company, their sponsors, you know, so on and so forth. Have you guys ever run into a situation where maybe a particular, you know, Twitch streamer or somebody has come to you guys, but then you look at his streams and it's like, dude, this guy's got like an abrasive attitude, or you know, he's not a good fit, just, you know, just on that level right off the bat? Has that ever happened? Or I mean, I'm obviously not naming any names, but I mean, is that something that would bar somebody from you guys, you know, giving them a look?
Short answer, yes. Long answer, I believe for the majority of the industry, yes. I think people don't realize that once you become part of once you become part of the organizations, or these organizations, you become a public figure. And so even your private stuff, even things you've done in the past before this, that stuff's going to come out to haunt you, because now it's now it's all public domain. And so, you know, when you're in public forums, say like GameFAQs, or a public forum like Twitch, or a public forum like even Twitter, things like that can haunt you. They can really, you know, throw a wrench in the works. Facebook's a little bit safer, but it's not like the first time you're friends with like you've heard someone was friends with their boss, posted something, and they got fired the next day. Like, I think it's the same thing. You just got to watch what you say in public. You got to make sure your act is clean enough or appropriate enough for what age group you're going after. Because, as I said, on YouTube, many of these kids are 14 or younger, like that know you, that watch you. And what kind of example are you setting? Like, are you going to be that guy who's going to be rude or inappropriate? If you are, like, know that people will imitate you. Know you're going to be that setting that example, and know that's the brand you're pushing forth. And unfortunately for those people, there's very few brands that are willing to work with them, just because they don't want the press of saying you're supporting somebody who's being a bad influence on kids. So I think it limits your opportunities for sure. Doesn't preclude you from everything, but it does definitely limits.
No, I mean, I'm sorry, that makes sense. I mean, it almost goes back to, and I know I'm dating myself with this one here, way back with Charles Barkley.
Yeah.
Tried to say I'm not a role model. Like, yes, you are.
Right.
Sorry. That many eyeballs on you, that many young kids looking up to you, you're a role model now. So, I mean, I agree with you 100% on that. It's like, you got to, kind of watch what you do, watch what you say, because if you're interested in getting in that public realm, you're going to have to watch what you do.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think a lot of people struggle with it. For me, like, I'm never about limiting what my players say or what they do. I tell them, like, look, I don't care what you do. And this is my general policy with everyone. It's like, I don't care what you do, but like, if it becomes a problem, I'm gonna have to do something about it. And if it happens to be not in your favor, like, you're gonna have to accept the consequences, because that's the thing. It's like, in America we have freedom of speech, but we don't have freedom from consequences.
Very
So
true.
you can stand up for your rights. Doesn't mean they won't get denied, but what's important is that you're able to stand up for them, and people can recognize that. So
appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah. So we're gonna flip it up a little bit. We talked a lot of esports.
Right.
Let's talk some non-esports. So we kind of want to get to know you a little bit more, the kind of stuff that you're into, because we're culture junkies, and if you don't know what a culture junkie is, pretty much anybody that's just addicted to all things pop culture, whether it be video games, anime, movies, games, so on and so forth. So I want to know kind of what kind of a junkie are you? Like, what's your big thing that you're just like absolutely addicted to, that you just cannot get enough of, besides games?
Besides games, let's see. Before games, it was sports. I was never too much into watching, but I always watched the Wolverines. I always watched the Lions until 0-15.
Man, yes.
I won't watch the last one. Like, just gotta keep the dream alive. But
hang in there.
I try to make it out to opening day for the Tigers. So that's kind of like, I guess that's what I used to be into. Ever since I started focusing more on games, I've been more sedentary and more stuck on my PC and stuck sitting down. Since then, I've really got into manga. So like in high school, I watched a little bit of anime. College, watched more, and as I got further and further into gaming, I watched more and more anime. So I do watch a lot. Funimation's been a big part of my personal life, and that's why I'm really happy they're a sponsor of ours.
That's a shameless plug. That's a shameless plug.
No,
so
I'm
shameless.
saying, for real.
No, I get it. They're like the prominent anime company.
Yeah, they do all the stuff on Toonami. Like,
right.
I watch all their stuff. They do all the Dragon Ball stuff. How can
Funimation is the now new ADV. Back in the day, you remember ADV was like the biggest
back in the day.
But now Funimation is that deal. They're bringing over darn near everything that's worth watching.
Right.
Cowboy Bebop.
Right. So
that was an ADV. That was Bandai.
Yeah, that was Bandai.
I don't know who has it now.
David, so run down like your top 5 anime titles, like real quick. Like, what's your top 5?
Like all time? This season?
like all time. Like... Just go ahead and hit us with it. No, all time. What you got?
All right. Obviously, it's really tough to list them all down. I think Full Metal Alchemist for me is number 1.
Ooh.
Which one?
Brotherhood.
Okay.
Everybody says Brotherhood was so much better than the original.
I mean, the original was good, but Brotherhood followed the manga, which was also good.
Okay, all right.
The original was really good until the original got past the manga and they had to make stuff up and end it really quickly.
Yeah, and that's kind of where it fell off at.
That was unfortunate. Cowboy Bebop, since you mentioned it, very up there. I'm really big into jazz, so love the music, love the style. Let's see. Recently I've been watching a lot of Overlord. I'm not
Oh,
particularly
yeah.
like
So-
super into it, but I do like that. I think I will put it up there because the anime is better than the light novel and the manga, which is very rare. So I'll put it up there. Gintama, I love a lot, and then I'll throw in One Piece just because that's what really got me into anime. It's still going. I don't know if it's good or bad at the moment, but
It's decent. I'm
Like-
somewhat currently watching it. I take long breaks in order to catch up so I can binge on it because
yeah.
it's gonna be around forever. But
It's
last night I
1,000
watched
plus.
it's actually really good still.
So
Okay.
let me ask you this then, David. So did you jump in like at the beginning of One Piece, like when it came out on Toonami, and it was dubbed? Did you catch it then, or were you watching it before that?
I saw one episode dubbed on 4Kids Saturday morning cartoon. Sanji had a New York accent. I thought it was like
Yeah,
really
I remember
poorly
that.
done.
Yes,
They were stuck on lollipops, and like somebody was pink instead of black. And
Yeah.
that was the one episode that I saw, and like I was confused, and I never watched it again. I didn't give it a shot until a girl I met that I was kind of dating who was in Japan was like saying how like she regularly schedules her day or her weekly schedule
Around One Piece.
around One Piece's release, and so does like all her friends, everyone else does. Like that's just the thing, right? It's like watching. It's like Grey's Anatomy is coming out on Tuesday.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, so
That's
like
what-
One Piece was their thing, and it was like really big for people of her age group. So I gave it another shot around when they were in the Skypiea arc. I kind of liked it. Then when Water 7 came around, I went back and rewatched all of it, and I've been following along since.
Ooh.
So someone's got hold of the Panda Global account watching us over on Twitch, right? They got a
Probably.
question for you. They got a
Okay.
question for you. Who is your favorite waifu and why is it Nami?
Well, one is not Nami. I think the appeal of Nami is that she's got so many different sides of her. So she's a very deep character for one. She was the first female protagonist introduced in the space, so like everyone has that attachment to her. And as the team grows, her breast size also grows.
Yo,
Eventually, as they get bigger, Luffy will become Pirate King. That's my theory.
Yo, so the Panda Global account, whoever's on it is like they're done with you. They said I'm done with him. Nobody insults Nami and gets away with it.
I didn't insult her. I said she's the reason why Luffy's going to become Pirate King. But I don't believe she's to be my favorite waifu. I can't really choose one.
I think he takes that as an insult. That
Well, I mean,
literally
like-
takes that as an insult.
Whoever's on that account right now, one, I will fire you as soon as I find out who you are.
This is cutthroat.
Two, if you've ever met me, my phone lock screen has my waifu on it, my 2D waifu on it, and then my 3D waifu on it.
So-
And so, yeah, clearly I have a favorite one.
Clearly, you have a favorite. So who is it?
It's BB Hood, Boletta from Darkstalkers.
Really?
Wow.
Oh,
Yep.
You know what? That's going back to his childhood, connecting that.
It's the
got
first.
you, man. You know,
It's
I
like the
got
first
you.
character. Yep, first character. I played. First thing I was into. Like, I'm a big fan of Sakonoko. I recently got to talk to him about Darkstalkers back in the day. I will never play him again. I thought he was out of practice. He's not. So, yeah, but BB Hood's my 2D waifu.
I got
it's
too many
really
waifus.
good.
I couldn't name them all. You got a 3D waifu. I heard you say it. So who is that?
That would be my girlfriend, but
Hey, all right.
yeah.
Actually, you know,
so-
what? I think you kind of got that mixed up. You should have said your girlfriend was your waifu first. But you know
No,
what? Never mind.
she knows. She knows.
knows?
I have my lock screen is my 2D waifu, and
She
then
know.
the home screen is hers. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Well,
all
see,
right.
now your favorite, one of your favorite franchises has brought up something that kind of sticks in my craw, as they say. Capcom needs to bring out a brand new Darkstalkers.
They do.
Yes.
I would really
They do.
like.
Remember the last time they did and no one bought it?
Hold on. That was a not
A
really so
remake.
much make, but it was like, I mean, I guess
Wasn't it just a collection though? Wasn't that the collection that they
It was
brought
a
out?
collection.
Talking about the
Yeah,
one for PlayStation 3 and
Yeah.
Xbox 360.
Yeah, wasn't that just a collection? Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah,
I got it on PlayStation 3 and Xbox
Same.
360. I bought it on both of them.
I would like to see a new one. I mean, that's just me.
Yeah.
So,
I heard rumors about it. I'm not excited about what rumors I heard about it, but I'd be glad to see another one. It's just Monster Hunter. Like I take a really big look at financial reports because obviously that's a lot of what
Your
I did
background.
in industry.
Right.
Monster Hunter world is just too big for Capcom. Like that's got to be their focus for like at least the next 4 or 5 years as a company. And so, a lot of these other games will live, these game franchises will live as like on the fringe of their main teams, but the majority of their resources should, and aptly so, go to Monster Hunter. Once they kind of, I think, make that into a mobile app that's really well done, that has a lot of cross-play potential, that doesn't necessarily lag, doesn't eat up too much battery, but is also interesting enough, then I think they'll have enough cash to just throw stuff at the other games. So like then at that point in time, I think they can just say like, all right, I think some people like Darkstalkers, like let's make a new one.
that's fair. That's fair.
So until then, we gotta stick with like cameo appearances. And,
Yeah, for more
and
games.
costume.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe more the redrawn sprite after what, like 25 years or whatever.
Yeah, making it around.
kind of see like Capcom somewhat trying to be on a bit of a road to redemption with everything they announced like this year. Because I mean, the fact that obviously, Monster Hunter World came out did great. I mean, nobody really expected that to be bad. Then of course later on, like we finally get a confirmation that they're continuing the original Devil May Cry series with the 5th one, and then they just this past week they announced Lucia. Of course, the Resident Evil 2 remake. I mean, it really seems like it took some doing, but I really feel like they're starting to listen.
I think.
I mean, I'm not putting all my chips into that, but I'm just saying it just really seems like somebody up there is actually kind of getting a bit of a hint.
I think when you don't have to make choices because you're not limited to make hard choices by financial aspects, you're able to listen to people a lot more. While like I think in any business, while everyone wants to listen and do what their fans want, your still primary fiduciary duty is to make sure the business survives and runs well and is able to continue to run well. Because if it goes under, then there's never a chance for that series to come back. So no, I'm
No, I'm not. I'm not laughing at you. I think it's your business partner that's having a little fun with you over on the Panda Global account because he's like, as I asked him, I said, I said that threat got you shaken of being fired, and he's like, no, I'm just saying I know his doctor, and he says, and some pills look awfully similar, so. Best be careful, I suppose. So, but go ahead, keep going, please.
Oh, okay. In that case, who won in tournament last time we met?
Ooh, dang, he's talking smack now. Ooh, he talking smack now. Okay. Super Nerd, you got a question?
Yeah. So one of my good friends, Waffles, has a question he wants to know, or answer he wants to know. He says, minus infiltration, who do you have at Capcom Cup coming out on top?
It's a tough call because Capcom Cup is really crazy. Because seeding matters so much because you know all the matchups going in. The only wrinkle they throw in is the last chance qualifier. I can see Daigo doing really well. I can see Tokido doing really well. It really depends on if they're going to patch it anytime soon, and how the meta develops, because the new characters are not very strong. It, at the moment. Like, does he want to know like a front runner or a dark horse?
I am not sure. That's the only thing he said
I'm sure
was that.
I'm sure he'll ask and follow that
Yeah.
up. But
Right.
go
I
ahead
think
and give us both.
I think it'll be a Guile that wins. So that could mean Do, Kaba, or Daiko. I think. I think a Guile will take it all the way. And the character is just very solid. Dark horse wise, I really want Cool Kid to make it and do really well. I really want him to do well. I want Justin Wong to do well. I think he's qualified now.
Legend.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And then like my heart says like if it wasn't infiltration, I want Punk to do it, but like he's not. I think he's still trying to qualify right now. Just because I worked with the kid so much last year. I really want to see him do well. He's got. I think he can. He's got it. He just, he just needs to show up, so to speak.
Speaking of Punk, that Vice video,
Mhm.
the video that Vice had a feature of Punk versus Tokido and Evo 2017. I found it very riveting. I thought that was a very very well done piece by Vice. And obviously Punk is no longer in your stable, but you guys kind of still talk and help each other out. How's that work? When a player leaves your stable, like how does it it's not necessarily that you cut ties or anything like that, is that?
No, not necessarily. It depends on how close we were to start with, right? So I consider him pretty close. I just been really busy. It's been really busy, so like I haven't really caught up with anybody, to be honest. So for him, I recently talked to him, kind of catch up with him when he had some time and I had some time. So it was good catching up with him. I think it's always a little bit weird because I do manage our side of things and he's on a different team now. And I obviously know their managers, and I wouldn't really want their managers talking to our players, much like they don't want me talking to their players.
Right.
So for the majority of the time, like we try to not interact as much as possible, or if we do, it's supervised. But just because someone leaves their stable doesn't mean I don't talk to them anymore. Like
Right.
I still talk a lot with F Champ, and obviously he did really well last year. And yeah, I just think it's really the scenario or I guess the details around it, whether I can talk to them freely or not. And also, yeah, just kind of how closely we work together. So I'm not going to deny I'm closer with some players than others, because obviously time does play a factor. Some people are on our roster for, let's say, 1 year. Some are for 2 years. Some have been for 3 years. Some have been less than like a couple months. So if I really didn't get a chance to know them, hang out, really understand them, and that takes time. It takes process, and it's taking me increasing longer periods now that I have a lot of other things on my plate. As I said, like I'm doing like 16, 17 hours a day, like 7 days a week. It's not like I randomly find an extra couple hours. So yeah.
So, I know you say you're busy. Do you have time to catch any up more movies? Let's say like Marvel. I mean, Infinity War.
When it comes out on the plane, like if it's on
Yeah.
American Airlines or Delta Airlines for the most
Yeah.
part, yes. So I caught, I believe, Doctor Strange. A lot of the Marvel movies I saw on the airplane. Yeah, but if it's not on the airplane, I tend not to see it.
Gotcha.
I think the last movie I saw in theaters was the Power Rangers movie.
Oh my gosh, dude!
It was
Wow.
me, Jay Wong, Marn, Punk, I believe Tokido came as well, and we all went to like a movie theater outside a venue because we were stuck at the hotel and there was weather and there's a movie theater in the space, so we just went and watched.
Oh man. So this is Power Ranger. Big fan of Power Rangers, or
Me or
in general? Are you in general like?
growing up?
Yeah.
Growing up, definitely. I would say I stopped watching once they became dinosaurs or something like that. I didn't really understand that part. Like not the first one. Well, they were originally dinosaurs, but then when they became dinosaurs again, like
Oh,
where they're
yeah.
Also,
actually
Dino Thunder when Tommy
Yeah,
came
Dino
back?
Thunder.
Yeah, Dino Thunder.
Yeah,
okay.
like I kept watching because obviously it was on Saturdays, and
Right.
you know I watched stuff on Saturdays. Came out, and then Tommy came back. He was a scientist for no reason. Everyone became a dinosaur when they transformed. I was very heavily confused.
Yeah.
Kind of stopped watching, and like, yeah, I wasn't like after they, you know how they held the Power Rangers marathon, at they held the Power Rangers marathon in on Twitch. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I do
yeah,
remember
yeah.
that.
Showed
Yes.
every single episode of the, I think every single episode like possible. So I
Yeah.
started watching that. I started watching that when it came out. I got to episode 10. I believe that was during South by Southwest, and Snoop Dogg was dropping his new album and had a private party and a private showing and a private show. And so I went just to say hi, and then I left to go back watch Power Rangers.
Wow. It's like, hey, Snoop, how you been, bro? Gotta go watch Power Rangers. I'm out.
Yeah, pretty much. I had to go because like one of our players was a huge fan of Snoop Dogg, and he needed to get in. So I got him in, got him to the front of the line at the meet and greet, and I just kind of
Damn, my man
bounced.
got the hook up, man. Man. He becomes hi, I'm your new best friend. You need to hook me up. I'm just saying.
I've met Snoop Dogg like 3 times total. Like I don't think I think he kind of remembers me, but not really. And I can't really repeat what he says to me
Oh, of course not.
because I'm
course
not.
not.
I don't think I'm allowed to say it. But
Yeah.
it's always very funny.
Yeah, absolutely not.
I've never seen him not blazed.
That's funny.
Yeah, I've never seen him not blazed. So interesting
Awesome.
character.
So quick question: do you collect any figures or anything, manga figures, or just figures in general to decorate your house or whatnot?
Short answer, yes. Long answer, I like to do first edition copies of upcoming mangas whenever I go to Japan, especially if I can go to like a Comic-Con or like meet the author and get them to sign it. So like I have volume 1 and volume 2 of One Punch Man signed by One. So I met him when it first came out before the anime, before he really got big.
Oh, that's dope.
I have a bunch of those. I have a collection of Sherlock that was on Netflix.
Yes.
With Benedict
Cumberbatch. Yeah.
Martin Freeman,
yeah. So they made a manga of that. So I have that series. Like they just drew it out. So I have that. I have, I think, all of One Piece. I haven't met Oda before, so which is unfortunate. I have most of Dragon Ball, like the original Dragon Ball, not Dragon Ball Z, the original Dragon Ball. So like I do collect those books. I leave them there. I collect other things like so I have like a bunch of sets of I have a set of Harry Potter, first edition. Like I used to collect books because I was really big into not reading. So in order to pretend to read, I would buy the books and just put them down.
That's funny. That's funny.
Like, yo, that's the first edition of the book. The reason I'm not reading it is because I don't want to lower its value. Like, I'm not big.
That's cool.
I'm not very big. I was never really big on reading, because dyslexic, so it's really tough for me. Let's see. I have a bunch of figurines. So actually, if you see me on camera, but the figurines I have are like functional. So like here's Lilith, which is the alternate color of Morgan. I guess this is alternate
looks
color.
like Morgan there though.
Yeah, but it's the Lilith alternate color.
No, I get you. I'm just saying.
I have the
like
Morgan one as well, but that's in the package.
Okay.
Somewhere here. But like the reason I have this is that she actually sits on cup noodles and keeps the lid down, and that's what this figurine is for. It's a cup noodle holder downer.
Cup noodle holder downer.
So like you know how instant noodles, like the cup noodles, like you set it on top. She sits down, keeps the thing there, and it just chills there until your noodles are ready. So I like collecting functional things like that. So like I have some like I do have a Nami figurine that when you pour hot water on it, changes from a full costume to a bikini. Like the colors just change and she's just in it.
I tell you, and a fullest.
Yeah. So like
I
have a few of those. Don't really connect too much. I used to have some plushies, so I have some Dragon Ball, some different Pokemon, but mostly they're just a stockpile of gifts So like when people walk by, like, hey, I love that character. That's my favorite thing. I'm like, cool, I have one. Here you go. So yeah.
Dude, I have to tell you, man, having David on has been absolute. So full of information. Go on, talk forever. I mean, dude, we could like run a whole another hour talking about esports and agrees about non-esports stuff, but you know, it's already 10:15. This man is extremely busy. I'm sure he's been up for 12 hours already. Yeah, 12 hours already. So I don't want to hold him up. He's got a flight to catch in the morning, so I'm gonna go ahead and let him get out of here. David, I want to thank you one more time for being on the show with us here on Culture Junkies. We can't wait to have you back on with time permitting.
Absolutely.
Well, are you going to let him answer or what? I mean, you answered for him.
I know what I'm saying, but I just want to extend mine because how we met, it was a privilege, and I appreciate you for even talking to me under the circumstances, and I really appreciate your time, and I thank you a lot.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on. It's been a blast. Look forward to the next time we can do it. So
absolutely, we'll have to put something in the books pretty soon. So, any other final comments before we sign off, gentlemen?
Oh, none for me. I mean, it's been information. It's like, hey, what do I have now?
Right.
I could talk about fighting games for extremely long time.
I could forever. So, David, real quick, what's coming up? What's coming up for Panda Global next? Where's the next event that you guys are going to be at?
So I'm personally going to PAX West tomorrow morning. That's going to be Hearthstone. It's the Seattle Showdown, I believe. It's going to be in the venue. Summer Jam, I believe, is in Philadelphia this weekend as well. That's a Tekken Masters event, the last one in North America, so we're going to see it there. Dragon Ball World Tour is in France somewhere in Paris. I don't know where in Paris, but it's in Paris. So we got a guy going there. I believe Infiltration is doing some traveling to start preparing for Tokyo Game Show later this month. The next stop will be next weekend, DreamHack Montreal. Big stop for Shadowverse. Again, it's a HCT stop for Hearthstone, Smash Brothers. So it's almost weekly, I would say. We had something going on. I know last weekend was Shine and Pokemon World Championships, I think. So, there's going to be something going on week after. Yeah, there's just a lot going on all the way through probably mid-November.
I'm absolutely blown away just by that little bit that he's been telling me. God, man, I'm tired just hearing the list. But it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun, and we wish you all well in all your events. Hope you guys place and do a good job. Everybody out there in Culture Junkie Nation also seemingly had a really good time. Can't wait to have you.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks for being on. Appreciate it.
Have a good night, y'all.
Have a good night.
So, Junkies, that's the show. We want to once again thank our guest, David Wu from Panda Global. Can't wait to have him back on. We're going to be back on trying to get this thing back into a regular schedule next week, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Central. For all the fellows on Culture Junkies Live, I'm Kenshiro. We'll see you guys next week. Peace out.
Bye, everybody.
See you then.